Hey everyone, how's it going? This is M.L.S. Weech, and welcome to another weekly episode where we look at 7 book covers, talk about why they're so great, offer a few ideas on how to make them even better, and then we let you vote on your favorite in the link down below. And speaking of things down below, I'm your humble host, M.L.S. Weech. I'm a self-published independent author. I would greatly appreciate it if you would support this channel by clicking the like and subscribe button. And I'd be even more grateful if you clicked on my author link, looked at my books, and see if any interest you. That would be outstanding. So we got a couple things to do. First off, the big news is we finished the poll for the September book cover of the month. For those who may be watching for the first time, what we end up doing is we pick 7 covers, vote for a favorite, and we do that 4 times because there are typically 4 weeks in a month. Then we take the 4 winners and put them in one winner-take-all bracket to name the book cover of the month. Each book cover of the month will then be placed in a poll by themselves for the 2021 M.L.S. Weech book cover of the year. So we can announce the winner for September. And the September 2021 book of the month is The Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnson. This is a really beautiful cover. It's so dynamic. It's so energetic. It has such wonderful color. Its use of text is great. It's just an amazing cover. It's really, really worthy to be named. And I'm happy for the designer, and I'm happy for Cameron Johnston. Big congratulations. And it is in the bracket for the 2021 Book Cover of the Year award. We also have to name a winner from the October week 2 book cover of the week so that we can get October's book cover going. And that winner is Gutter Mage by J.S. Kelly. This had a real classic feel to me. The use of color and the style, everything kind of worked together so well. It's sharp, it's bold, it's colorful, it's unique, it's wonderful. And big congratulations. So this is going to be in the bracket for the October book cover of the month. So you can vote for it if it's your favorite. But we got to get through the rest of October first, which means we have to start talking about the book covers for week 3, which is what we're going to do right now. The first one we're going to talk about is kind of similar to last week's winner, and that's Nothing Ever Ends by Darby Harn. Nothing Ever Ends by Darby Harn first drew my attention because of the light, that little beautiful triangle light's really, really unique. When my students do their photography practice later on down in the course, I think I'm going to want to try to recreate this technique. The other interesting thing is its use of color and its unique style. This isn't as realistic in terms of color and art that we typically see in book covers, especially in fantasy. So it was interesting to see a very stylized artistic style combined with a very interesting color palette to create a very interesting lighting effect. But this book cover does it, and it does it well. The next book cover we're going to talk about is Cleansing Rain by Holly Ash. I'm going to bring it up for you here. Cleansing Rain by Holly Ash. Real nice muted background. I don't typically like book covers where we look at the back of the subject's head, especially when that subject is 50% or more of the frame. So there are a lot of things that I wouldn't typically like in a book cover that has these elements, but I do like that really interesting, I think it's a weather scope or radar kind of feel. I do like that. I do like the tone of the cover, the texture of it, I would almost say. Kind of looks like I can reach up there and feel the black and white grainy aspect of it. And it's not pixelation. This image is small because I deal with whatever Amazon lets me have when I save the image. But the interesting thing is that stylized artistic tool in this case gives it a nice feel that's indicative of what I imagine the tone of the book is. And most book covers try to reflect the tone of the content they have. So it's not like overly dynamic, and it does a couple things that I just wouldn't normally go for, but for some reason it works in this case. If I'm going to give a knock on it, the author text, if you're going to put something at the very top of a book cover, you wouldn't typically make it that small. The author text being that small, you can tack it at the bottom. It's not getting in the way of the silhouette. And if you're worried about being in the way of the silhouette, move cleansing rain all the way up to the top and let the author text be that small and fall underneath it. Me personally, I go with the second option because I mean you're already turning the subject away, so there's not a lot for us to see there. Also, the other interesting thing is that typically when you have a figure and you're facing the back, and we're going to see this again in another book cover coming up, the background has to be really compelling. Usually why I don't like it is if the background's that awesome, get the people out of the way and let us look at the landscape. Let us look at what's going on. But that color, that texture style and that radar overlay effect, it drew my eye. So I picked it to be available, and maybe you love it. So you can vote for it in the link down below. The next one is a typical cover that I'm going to enjoy. If you have dragons on your cover, I probably will at least look at your book. This is the cover for Dragonbone by Ursula Visser. And the dragons are wicked. They're awesome. They're cool. The little filigrees, the framing elements, you see that sometimes. What I'm impressed by is the immaculate attention to detail in the composition. I want you to look at this dragon. And you notice how nothing overlaps the dragon. Look how carefully the tail weaves around. And then we have this sword and this outstretched hand. Then we have this dragon in its own space, and this dragon in its own space, and this figure. The text kind of gets in the way, but it's not obstructive. Composition in design and in photography is all about putting everything where it goes. That's really what it all boils down to. So whenever I see renderings where everything is obviously placed in a careful manner so that it all fits together and works together, I'm already tickled pink. When those things are dragons, I promise you're going to make it into my book cover of the week bracket, and then the voters can decide whether or not it's the best. The next cover we're going to talk about is Broken Chair, Hidden Fist. Now that sounds like a martial art movie. It's because it's kind of a martial art book. We've seen a trend of these in the last few weeks and months. This is a pretty simplistic portrait style cover. I don't know about you guys, so I'm actually red-green colorblind. So whenever there's red or green anywhere, I get a little distracted by it. It gets hard for me to see. So I don't know, and I wonder if you guys let me know in the comments, like, can you see the text, the broken chair text? Even the hidden fist is a little tough for me to read, but I can see it a lot better than broken chair. For a while, I was like, is it chalk? Is it, what's going on? It still works with an anime theme, and sometimes in design, typically, most people will guide you away from red text, especially on a muted background. It's not something nobody does, but it's not done a whole lot, and that's because of legibility and color issues that people might have out there. So I'm just kind of curious to see what you guys think. It's still beautiful detail in the art. I like the use of the text up here. It combines the elements of a fantasy novel and the elements of a manga and put them together in what's actually a pretty nice, fascinating cover. That's a good blend. I like the half mask on, half mask off thing, so we have some sense of personality in the figure. So everything about this kind of works together well. I don't know why it's not standing out that much more to me. I mean, obviously I put it like in the best 7 I've seen this week, but it doesn't have that same wow factor that the September winter month does. And I look at it and I don't know why. And I think it's because it does everything well, but it doesn't do anything spectacularly. That's really all I can say about it. That's not a knock on the art. the art itself is spectacular, but like any design, it's going to have spectacular art. Otherwise, it's not going to stand out in an overall layout. So that's kind of where I didn't want the person who rendered this wonderful figure to think that the art wasn't great. It's just not, the light's not interesting. The color's not interesting. Everything's good, but nothing's great. So I would try to do probably mess around with the light to get more depth in it. That's probably where I would go. The next book cover we're going to look at is by Kat Rector. It's called The Goddess of Nothing at All. And again, we have these obscure faces, which I guess is the trend this week. I always accidentally run into a trend I didn't know I was doing. I never plan it, but every now and again, I start to notice it, especially while I'm shooting these videos. So again, we have at least a portion of the figure hidden. The fact that we have the title text between these visual elements emphasizes the title text, and it's clear and it's legible, so it's effective. The light is a little bit more interesting because we have a fall off of shadow. I do think it's a little weird though. If you look here in the face, if you're going to have a light that's hitting the bridge of the nose, you got shadow here. I guess maybe if I don't know what light would cause that effect, and that's kind of weirding me out. Because I'm still trying to like diagram how the light would work, and I'm just not sure it works this way. Maybe you have like a little snoot here, but then why would you light just this little bit? On one hand, as an artist, you're like, well, I'm trying to get some depth, but then why not bring it out a little bit? And you've already obscured the face, so you don't really need to hide what's not visible in deeper shadow. I'm not really sure what's going on here. It might be a bowl of some kind. I like the runes. I think it's interesting that the runes are glowing. I hope it's a intentional design thing that teases some sort of plot device. I at least hope it is. So the art is good. The light is a little weird, but everything revolves around the title text, and that is a sufficient book design tactic. So it stands out because of its composition and how it arranges everything around the title text. That's a pretty clever idea. I just like, I'm going to stare at that light forever if someone lets me, trying to figure out what they were doing and how they imagined it in terms of what light does. But I don't have that kind of time because we got 2 more book covers to look at. And the penultimate book for this week is Taken by Kenny Soward and Mike Krause. And here again, we have obscured people. So we got these silhouettes. So why I chose this cover and what I like about it is the wacky but awesome in a dystopian sense color scheme. You got this fiery green red background, this world burning down around them kind of feel. Every fiber of my being wishes this silhouette of this kid was over a little bit. So you remember how the dragons were just so beautifully placed and they had their own spot? This overlap is really driving me nuts. Now, I think they're holding hands, which I don't necessarily mind, but you could still turn the figure or move the figure, have the arms outstretched a little bit so that they have their own space. But since this is way more about the landscape and the destruction and horror that's going on around them, I got to give it a little bit of a pass. I think it's clever what they did with the text, using it so that it's translucent, or at least has an opaque sense of it. Like when it's clearly not just an outline, because you see a more traditional orange flame in the a stroke of the letters, but the rest of the background has a distinctly different color thing. So I like that it blends, but doesn't blend to a degree that you can't read it. And that's also a pretty notable thing. We have 1 more book cover to look at, and that is Chronicles of the Black Gate by Phil Tucker. So this has a much more traditional feel, and I mean, maybe it wrecks the whole thing because you can see this, I don't know, maybe it's an elf. Yeah, that guy's face in the screen. But what I like, I look at so many distinct, unique they don't do this very often kind of covers. Sometimes I really appreciate something that's a little more standard. I love the way the text is integrated into the background around the subject. Yes, they overlap a little bit, but not to such a degree that I can't read the letter L or the letter G. I like the figures. I like the hints at whatever monsters they're fighting back to back for. I think it's interesting that the swords are glowing some sort of way. They might be covered in flame, but the color scheme is great. The rendering art is unique and detailed. The scene itself is dynamic. The only real knock I have is the author text, and that's a very little knock because I mean you got to get in there somewhere, and if you don't do it white in that sense, then I just don't know where you put it, unless you're not really that, maybe a person who's more confident in the cover in itself might write Phil Tucker over here in the negative space, or turn it over here in a corner. But so it is a little like a sore thumb because it stands out and draws the eye away, and that's a bit of a demerit. So you got to find a way to make it look like it belongs in this whole collective thing. We call that the concept of unity. Everything has to look like it belongs. You see the author text because it clearly looks different than everything else. Outside from that, though, it's still a pretty awesome looking cover. So those are the book covers we have for this week. And now it is your turn. Please remember to go on down to the link below, vote for your favorite, so that the more votes we get, the more recognition these artists gain. So if you're an artist and you want other artists to be recognized, this is a reason to vote. Maybe you find a book cover you like, you can share it. But whatever you do, just make sure to try to spread the word, because it really helps out these guys and it also helps me. So that would be wonderful. I will see you next week. And as always, God be with you.